Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Fitchburg Municipal Airport October 19th, 2022 Airport Commission meeting. The meeting is now called to order. Please be advised, FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that if anyone is recording the meeting to please identify themselves for record by standing and stating your name and address. I invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to please approach the podium, identify yourself by name and address, and identify the agenda item on which you wish to speak. There is a 2-minute limit for comment on any agenda items at this time. You can speak all you want when we get to the agenda item, but if you'd like to address any items now, please come up to the podium and state your name and what you're going to be speaking on. And
William Taylor. My address is 137 Elwyn Avenue in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I'm a tenant at the airport, both relative to a lease with respect to a hangar building that I own as part of a company called FPA Coop LLC. And my interest this evening is to discuss the matter of minimum standards that I understand is on the agenda.
yes, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Oh, okay.
David Straight.
My name is David Straight. My address is 24 Mount Lebanon Street in Pepperell, and I would like to speak on the topic of minimum standards, if that agenda item is on the agenda for tonight.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. Before we get into the action items, previous month's minutes approval. Rich Liberatore, Secretary.
Introduce the people.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm caught off guard here. First, let me introduce the commission members. Myself, Chair, Clayton Raymond, Rich Liberatore to my far right, Beth Walsh video, and also sitting here is Peter Kettle, Fitchburg Airport Manager. We also have Gale Associates, Ibrahim and Jackie Marks. Thank you. And others in attendance, I assume, are from fact lease tenants or owners or otherwise. And we also have Mary Jo Bohart from the
She's the development.
the which?
Development.
Development Committee. Thank you. I forget every time. Okay, so back into previous month's approval. Rich sent the minutes to all the commissioners. I've had a chance to read through them. I am satisfied. If any comment from the commission, please let me know now.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that. We're good. Thank you, Beth. Item 1, action items from previous minutes. We're going to quickly go through these just for accountability. First action item, Airport Manager Peter Kettle, Building 18, Ken McLean, installing an HVAC unit, and we just, I think last time we just wanted them to be within a building permit or something like that.
That's all been done and
Yeah.
they've actually commenced.
Yeah.
It could take up to 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's the latest information.
So it started but not complete.
Right.
Thank you. Valentine Eye Care, waiting for the solicitor to sign some documents and return to Valentine. Do we have any follow-up on that?
Yes, we do. We got the documents. They were signed by the mayor, the attorney, and everyone else within the city council. And I've actually delivered those to Valentine. So that can come off
Thank
the
you, Peter.
agenda.
Tie downs, FPA Co-op, Airport Manager Peter Kettle, action item.
Yes, we had some, I guess it's not a disagreement, but basically what had happened in the past that FACT had a tie-down agreement, and the tie-down agreement was changed, I believe, in 1998, or no, 2018, to come into a square foot area as a charge, and the FPA Co-op was overlooked at that time. And since then, the FAA has been on to me to talk to Mr. Nikitas and Mr. Taylor, and they have now been paying for the last 3 months the correct rate. So what I've done is spoken to the attorney, and the attorney is putting an amendment to the current lease that the FPA Co-op has, and that will be sent to them within a week, I hope.
Good. Thank you, Peter. RFP 7 to 9 hangars, city solicitor and myself. So over the last 3 to 4 months, we have been trying to come up with a lease that would please both the city and the leasee. And I think we're 99% complete. I have a finished draft in front of me here. It looks like everything that we have asked for is in this lease. I thank the solicitor's department, solicitor's office for doing all that work. There's well over 40 to 50 hours of work into this lease. And I'm hoping that this attracts people to want to invest in the airport.
What's left on that now?
Basically, there's probably 3 items on there that are being hashed out.
Oh, here's the man.
Yeah.
So that's it, just, that's the only thing holding that thing back, that
Well,
document.
let me find out.
Okay.
Mr. Pusateri, how are you? Morning, sir. Welcome. Everyone, this is the city solicitor, Vinny Pusateri. We call him Vinny, but we're just doing some action items on the hangar, RFP 7 to 9 hangars.
Yep.
Now, I have a copy of, I thought was a final draft of the lease proposal.
Yep.
And the questions asked now is, are we done?
So the answer to that is no. I think I have an email into Attorney Dawson from September. I believe it was mid-September.
Okay.
And I believe that Eric has approached us and indicated that, who's been negotiating this lease with us, that there's been some delay with him. So I'm happy to report it's not me.
That's good news.
I spoke to Eric last week and he apologized. It's completely his fault. He said he's that inundated with work, where he does work, and he's president of the company. And he said he'll get onto it and speak to Peter Dawson as soon as he possibly can.
So, I mean, I'm estimating we're 99% completed on this.
There's, very small items.
Yeah. Okay. So, moving on. We're going to keep that on the agenda, of course. I hope to be done soon. Action item, Peter Kettle, roofs for hangars 2 and 3.
Hangars 2 and 3 have been coated. We had a massive storm approximately 10 days ago, and there was leaks. And I went into the hangar and took a piece of chalk and went around every single leak in the hangar. The contractor came back again and put a second coat on. And then we had another storm 4 days ago, and then it rained again on Saturday, which would have been 4 days ago. And there was just 2 leaks, and he's addressing that now. So hopefully it's been completed, and we now have brand new doors and brand new roofs on hangars 7 and 9, and the only thing now to do is paint them. And they will be painted in the same blue as Nagel hangar 10.
You mean hangars 2 and 3?
Yes, the same as hangars 10 though, the colour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Airport manager, Kettle, from last week, minimum standards.
Yeah, in this case, this was just putting it all together.
Yeah. So it is
I suggest we wait until we get to item 1 on new business to discuss that, because we've got representation here from FACT and the
Yep.
Fitchburg Pilots Association.
Yep. So the new minimum standards are not completed yet, and
Correct.
in progress. She whiz. Nagel Aircraft for Hangar 10 agreement, lease agreement.
I'm pleased to advise everyone that we have a 20-year lease agreement with Nagel Aircraft in Hangar 10 with a +5 option and another +5 option, making it a 30-year lease. That's been signed, it's been approved by the City Council, and it's now done.
Excellent. Off the agenda.
Yes, sir. We can skip that one because we've covered that one.
Okay. GPU unit was supposed to be, we were in the, going to purchase from Bullock.
Correct?
City was going to purchase it, and we gave you
Go ahead.
the go-ahead last month.
Yeah, that has been completed. The check's been raised. Mr. Bullock has the check. We now have a GPU to offer any plane that comes in that needs startability because their batteries are down. And I'm in the process of getting quotations to remove the access to that GPU from the old Bullock hangar, because it's a 3-phase system, and putting it into the admin building just outside on a pedestal. And we'll actually have it there so that when the jets come in, they don't have to travel all the way down to the Bullock hangar. So that's a big, big, good addition to the airport. And I thank Mr. Bullock for that.
So the sale is complete and we're
That's done.
the owners.
We own it.
Okay.
Yes.
So are we soliciting a quote to have that?
That's been done now.
Oh, okay. Not to purchase the GPU, but to put the 3-phase
To put
power
the
out.
3-phase in on the outside of
Okay.
the air side of for the admin building.
Yeah. Action item, Mr. Kettle, Colin Smith, airport manager, spoke to.
Yeah, I'll just go straight into that, if
Yeah.
I may, Mr. Chair. A gentleman named Colin Smith, who currently operates at Hanscom, approached me. He wants to build a 40 to 45,000 square foot hangar at Fitchburg. We've actually identified that on the airport master plan, and he's just waiting to see what the results are of the agreement that Mr. Pusateri and Attorney Pusateri and Attorney Dawson are looking at. And once that's done, I believe he will come. And that'll be a massive asset to the airport as well.
I hope I don't have to reread that entire lease.
I suggest do it at right around 10:30 at night.
Okay.
Works great. Stephen Dyke,
Now, I think you all know Stephen Dyke. Stephen's the new part-time lineman that we have. He's adapted so quickly and so well that I honestly would like to make him a part-time with benefits from the city. To do that, he has to work a minimum of 20 hours a week, and that is 3 days of 8 hours. And he has offered to do it, but I have to get approval from the mayor, and I need to set up a meeting with the mayor to actually discuss that, because it's an item that has to be approved by the city council.
but the commission has a motion to move forward
You did, yes.
last month. All right, old business, there's some action items as well. Are any of these repetitive? Okay, we only got a few
Yeah,
more.
they will be. Mary Jo will be a repetitive.
All right, we're going to skip that for
And
now.
the next one as well, the
Yeah.
tie down
Okay,
and the hangers.
and the hangers, all right. Action items from last month's minutes, complete. Correspondence to the commission, I have a yes, there was.
Yes, there is, and here it is. It's from Direct Energy, and it's to you, and it's showing you how electricity is going to come down in price, over the next 10 to 15 years. So,
Excellent. I'll take this home. Thank you, Peter. Gale Associates, review of ongoing work, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I'm Jacqueline Marks, project planner with Gale Associates. Here with me this evening is Ibrahim Diarra. He's a project engineer for Gale Associates. So we have a brief update for the commission this evening. First item is the airport master plan update. At the last meeting, the commission approved Gale to move forward with circulating the final airport layout plan for signatures. So that was completed. It's been signed now by the airport and by Mass DOT and is in the hands of FAA. They are aware of it. An approval letter actually has to be issued along with the signature. So I've spoken with Colleen Mayu of FAA, and she has it in her hand. She's working on the approval letter and expects to have the approval issued this week. So once that approval is issued and she signs the airport layout plan, we'll be able to incorporate that final document into the overall master plan document and move into preparing the closeout report documentation, final reimbursement request for that project. So the only action required by the airport this month would be when that closeout report comes through, it'll just need to be executed by you, Mr. Chairman. Any questions on the master plan?
good job, Jackie.
Thank you.
Good job, and thank you to Ibrahim for all of his work on the airport layout plan. He was an integral part of completing that.
Thank you, Ibrahim. So I will get something, DocuSign?
Yes, you will. Yep, and I'll let you know when that's going to be coming your way.
Yep. Okay.
So moving on to page 2, item number 2, the environmental assessment and wildlife hazard assessment. As we spoke about last month, the delay in beginning this project was due to the airport layout plan and master plan still being outstanding. So now that the master plan is complete and we're moving into, getting those final signatures and closing out, we can move into the environmental assessment to, begin evaluating different developments for potential environmental impacts. So I've reached out to the FAA regarding, if you recall, we had submitted an AIP grant application back in April of this year, and I reached out to FAA just to inquire as to whether or not additional documentation would be required to submit for that bill funding, or if the existing AIP application would suffice. FAA did respond saying that yes, that AIP application would should be fine. If there's any additional documentation, forms or anything that's needed, they'll let us know. So I plan to follow up. Once I have that final ALP signature from FAA and final approval, I'll reach out again and just kind of give them a little bit of a reminder that hey, we're waiting on you for the EA grant, and I'll keep you updated as things progress with that. I also reached out to New Earth Ecological. They are the environmental consultant that will be conducting the wildlife hazard assessment and then preparing the associated reporting for that. So I reached out to them just to kind of let them know about the little bit of the delay in the funding and that the project start may be delayed a bit, and they are fully aware and on board, and whenever we are good to move forward and the funding comes through, they're ready to put boots on the ground and get out onto the airport and start that work as well. So no action of the airport on the EA project. Just stay tuned and I'll keep you all informed as as to the progress and when things start to move on that.
Okay, thank you, Jackie.
Any questions on that, EA? Okay. So as a result of the recent capital improvement program meeting, it was discovered that the airport does have a need to pursue the apron reconstruction project. So you'll see item number 3 now. We have the design and permitting for the main apron reconstruction. Not a whole lot going on with that yet. There's still, FAA has requested that a project scoping meeting be scheduled for late November or early December for that project. So just stay tuned as we'll get that scheduled and get that on the books, and then you'll be hearing a lot more about that. But any questions on the apron project at all?
No questions, but a comment, please, if I may.
Sure.
The actual scoping meeting was planned for last Wednesday, but the FAA came in at the last moment, I think maybe 5 hours before, and said, I beg your pardon, Monday, not Wednesday. Thank you, Ebe. And they stopped it and proposed that they would have better knowledge of their finance situation in November or December. So hopefully if that takes place and they agree, then we could have a brand new ramp of, within late 2023, early 2024. And it really badly needs to be replaced. I'm sure you all agree. So we're not hanging back on it. We're pushing. Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
I have one quick, if you could clarify.
Sure.
We're going to be using BIL funding for the environmental assessment and wildlife assessment as well as the apron?
Yep. So the, let's see, the AIP funding will be it looks like permitting and reconstruction will be under AIP, and then the actual main apron reconstruction portion. So design and permitting will happen in fiscal year 2023, and then the actual reconstruction in fiscal year 2024, and then the construction portion will be using that bill funding, as far as I understand.
Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Of
please?
course.
Yes.
Just so that everybody in the room knows, the FAA bill funding actually provides the airport with $275,000 over 5 years, every year for 5 years.
$295.
$295.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
So
we've got money to actually proceed and make the place better than what it is.
Any other questions, comments on the apron? Okay. So just moving on to the other items on page 3. So installation of the backup generator. No update this month. Still same status as last month. And then item number 2 under other items, the airport CIP meeting took place on the 29th of September. FAA and Mass DOT are still working together on their end to kind of finalize a few funding items, but as soon as they have, things all set on their end, I will certainly look to finalize this CIP with other members of, the GAIL team and with the airport and get this distributed. But as it stands right now, the as I said, fiscal year 2023 AIP project is the permitting for the apron reconstruction. 2024 main apron reconstruction. It looks like 2025 there's some wildlife fencing and acquisition of snow removal equipment, and then 2026 it looks like we're getting into the rehabilitation or reconstruction of the unnamed taxiway, unnamed taxi lane. So and of course, as you know, as we go through CIP meetings each year, there's opportunity as priorities may change or things may change, and of course, based upon availability of funding, these projects can be shifted around as well.
Yep.
It was a result from that CIP meeting on the 29th of September that we actually all worked very hard to try and bring the ramp forward, and hence the scoping meeting taking place. So it was put way back, which, we've now got 29 corporations flying into Fitchburg with businesses in the local area. And I think if it degrades much more, then the jets won't stop coming in. They'll stop coming in, I believe, because of all the debris and everything on the breaking up ramp. And it's got to be done if we're going to progress and make a better airport for everybody.
It's a large ramp. It's going to be a lot of money, so we need to start planning for it now.
Any other questions for Gail?
Anyone else?
No, thank you.
We're good.
Thank you very much.
Jackie. Appreciate it. Item 4, Fitchburg's Pilots Association update.
Basically, there's nothing to report. Every month I send out to the 3 main people who would contribute, and they all advise there's nothing to report other than what was done in the last meeting where you had the Young Eagles.
Yep,
So, thank you.
thank you. New business. Item 1, minimum standards. This all comes down to the minimum standards we're working on now that hasn't been upgraded in over 30 years. So we are working on the entire minimum standards to update it to 2022. Item 2.3 is specific here. It's concerns hangars at the airport that are designated for cold storage or just storage of aircraft. And the question is what kind of maintenance can be done inside the aircraft and by whom? So I'll let Peter take it from here, but the audience is full of tenants that have aircraft in these hangars, and we need to come to a understanding of what's allowed and what's not allowed. So thank you all for coming. You can comment now, or if Peter wants to add to just summarize what's going on.
Well, basically, I'd advised everybody that the previous minimum standards were from 1985. They weren't from 1985. They were from 1957. So, unfortunately, nobody had, as a manager, had actually implemented any of the things that were identified in the minimum standards. And one of the things that I was asked to do when I was asked to take this job was to bring it up to date. And the Commission gave me the responsibility of putting the minimum standards together. And all I've done, basically, is take the 57 standards and brought them up to 2021. And what that means is any building that's going to go up or anybody that wants to do work on the airport must have the facility to have the customers come in, sit down, use Wi-Fi, etc. Just bringing it up to date. And I know one of the conjectures within this is that, any person wishing to actually do work on the airport must make an approach to the Fitchburg Airport Commission and get approval. And that's as simple as it is. So I'm done. So if we'd like to have Mr. Taylor come up.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone's welcome now to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak to you on this topic. I will say finally speak to you on this topic because I've been attempting to raise issues with the Commission, and I have been unsuccessful and was actually told at one point that the Commission was not interested in input, which was quite concerning. So I don't know if there's a time limit as to what I have to say, but I'll give you an outline of what I wanted my remarks to be.
So in this portion of the agenda, you can, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, just again to my summary, I have 2 questions, either for the airport manager or the Commission. And then I wanted to read into the record some components of FAA Order 5190-6B and a couple of sections that I would like read into the record that goes to the topic of minimum standards.
Yes, please.
Okay, so the first question I had is, again, to reiterate the point I just made, is can the Commission explain why the process of developing and updating minimum standards up until this point or this meeting is being done in secret and without a reasonable chance for airport users to input?
I'll comment. So it's not done in secret, it's done in a public setting. Peter has made changes to that 1957 standard, sent copies to all the commissioners, and all the commissioners commented, and it's back in Peter's office to be reprinted.
But the public has not been able to see a copy of those standards, so it's awfully hard to comment on them as public if we can't see them.
Yeah, and they're not ready for public viewing yet.
So is there a period for viewing and then further comment and revision, or how does that process work?
So I would say it would come up on an agenda item. So there's no set period of time where it's going to be displayed. So it may come up just as an agenda item. I would imagine that would go up would it go up on the website as well?
It would be published,
Yeah.
like the existing one was, and because we haven't got the latest one up to
Yeah,
date,
yeah.
we're using the 1957 minimum standards.
Yeah. So it's not a problem for us to display it for comment. But you touched on one issue where we weren't asking the tenants or or anyone else at the airport for their comment. Part of that was it was the FAA's suggestion that minimum standards is for the airport, the safety of the patrons at the airport, and the well-being of the citizens of Fitchburg. And that's kind of what we went forward with. We're going to have a deeper discussion this evening, I'm sure, about the main issues at hand, and
Well, I agree,
we'll
Mr.
discuss
Chair.
that soon.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
I was going to say I agree with your premise as to the purpose of the minimum standards, but there's also other purposes of them as outlined by the FAA. And those are the sections that I wish to highlight for your and the rest of the Commission's benefit.
Yeah, please.
But before I do that, my last question was, does the Airport Commission believe that it has a duty to reasonably accommodate all tenants and users, or is the effort of minimum standards really about restricting trade and competition to protect a few tenants?
So we're not allowed to favor one or another,
Okay.
period. It's a public airport,
Thank
public
you.
funding.
Okay, that's what I was hoping you were going to say, so thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so now, if I may, I'm going to read into the record a few sections from the FAA document, which I believe is in order, but I don't know quite how the FAA documentation works. But the reference number is 5190.6B, change 1. The first section I'll read is, this is Chapter 10 of that document, which is entitled Reasonable Commercial Minimum Standards. Section 10.2, subsection A, states that any minimum standards shall, and I quote, apply uniformly to all similarly situated providers of aeronautical services, including full-service fixed-base operators, or FBOs, and specialized aviation service operators, or SASOs for short. I'm going to come back to the specialized aviation service operators in a later section. The next section I'd like to read into the record is regarding, and this goes to the point, Mr. Chair, that you started with in your remarks a moment ago, about the benefits of the minimum standards, which is subsection 10.4. And specifically, subsection 10.4C says that the purpose of the minimum standards, or the benefits of them, are to, quote, enhance the availability of adequate services for all airport users. The next section I'd like to read returns to the topic of specialized aviation service operations. And please bear with me, this is a little bit more lengthy. This is subsection 10.5, paragraph F, as in Frank. It says, when specialized aviation service operations, or SASOs, sometimes known as single service providers or special FBOs, apply to do business on the airport, all provisions of the published minimum standards shall not apply. My emphasis on the word not apply. That section goes on to state as follows. However, an airport should not, without adequate justification, require that a service provider desiring to provide a single service or less than full service also meet the criteria for a full service FBO. Examples of these specialized services may include profit or for-profit aircraft flying clubs, flight training, aircraft airframe and power plant repair and maintenance, aircraft charter, air taxi or air ambulance, aircraft sales, avionics, instrument or propeller services, or other specialized commercial flight support businesses. So that's a wide range of specialized aviation service operations that are well defined as being applicable, as being available for the airport to consider to be approved for the Fitchburg Airport. I will leave it up to my colleagues to comment further, but I can assure you that the view of most people in this room who are pilots and tenants at the airport is that we want to see a larger variety and choice of services available at the airport as tenants, and that is facilitated by the Commission focusing on allowing reasonable terms under which specialized aviation service operators may enter the airport and work on aircraft. There may be other comments that, and I don't mean to restrict it to one, but to give you a specific example, if you're familiar with the term an owner-assisted annual, there is at present no based entity on the field at Fitchburg who is willing and prepared to do an owner-assisted annual. So gentleman that I have used has come onto the field up until recently, where he was accused of trespassing because he did not have proper authorization to be on the field. He provides a service of an owner-assisted annual. And there's a number of other tenants and pilots in this room that similarly wish to use that type of service. I raise that not to suggest that be the only SASO that the airport should consider, but rather that it is an example of one that would be valued by tenants and should be considered further by the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in attendance that would like to comment on the minimum standards? Please.
Okay, to fill the commission in, I want to comment on an event that occurred last week for me. The same off-airport mechanic that Bill referred to was working for me.
Mm-hmm. Can you come closer to the speaker, David?
I don't want to swallow it. He was doing my yearly annual, which is required by the FAA, when the police showed up and escorted him off of the airport. I have an 81-year-old airplane. It is possibly the oldest airplane on the field. It is constructed completely different than modern aircraft, and I have a hard time finding mechanics that are qualified to work on it. In the 16 years that I've had annual inspections done, the latest mechanic that was removed from the airport has done 4 of them, and I have not had an issue with his work. Prior to that, in 12 years, 5 of my annuals came back with problems with my airplane. 2 of them were considered flight critical situations. In one instance, the FAA was ready to come in and be involved with the incident, but I turned them down. I don't think it's the Airport Commission's position to be selectively preferring one qualified mechanic over another or other service provider.
Okay.
In my time here, I came here in 2001. There's been 2 fatal crashes, both involving mechanical issues, and flight safety should not be a second-tier item to business issues.
Yep. All right. Are there any other issues you'd like to touch on at this point?
That's my main issue.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Minimum standards, item 2.3. It requires individuals doing work at the airport insurance. It requires them to check in with the airport manager. And it requires a building or a hangar that's designated as a maintenance hangar. So those are problems. And I'll let Mr. Kettle speak to it. But to the best of my knowledge, every fact lease hangar is for aircraft storage only. And that's something we can't work around. Go ahead.
Just curious why, if that's the case, why does the airport require that we have insurance that includes a provision for work being performed on aircraft in the hangars?
Because the
Not for storage, for work.
it is written that the owner of the aircraft can do minimal maintenance. So, yeah, it is a contradiction.
It is a contradiction, and there is, of course, insurance in place, is what I guess what I'm trying to say.
I'm not an insurance expert by no means.
Nor am I, sir, but
yeah.
just be aware that that is the case with
Yeah.
insurance.
Yeah. So, Peter, let's dive into this and let's get it straight.
There's a couple of things that I'd like to approach. This all happened maybe 3 weeks ago when I was verbally abused, accosted. I've never been treated like that in my life by one of the tenants at the airport. And basically all I did was go down there to do my job. And my job is to protect the city from any liability moving forwards. And within the city itself, there are laid down rules that say that anybody that works on the airport must get approval by the commission, and that approval was not undertaken. I showed both Mr. Taylor and the gentleman in question the document that says any person, firm or legal entity wishing to obtain the rights to operate on an airport shall make written application to the Fitchburg Airport Commission in the manner and form prescribed herein. And that's one thing that will be altered on the new minimum standards. And that new minimum standards will require insurance cover of, I would believe, up to $2 million. And up to $2 million because work's being done, number one, in the FACT hangar, where it says use of units. No unit is intended or designed for occupancy or for residential purposes. No unit shall be used for any purpose other than manage, operate, and maintain aircraft hangars. No work in the hangar by anybody other than the owner. And the $2 million is reasonable, and I can provide you with the justification for that. Number one, if somebody's working in one of those sections of hangars, there's 16 to 17 hangars in each unit. Each plane is worth over $100,000 today. So 17 is $1.7 million without the cost to repair if the fire takes the whole lot down. So this is where I'm coming from. This is where I'm coming from, trying to do my job, trying to make the airport a safer place for everybody that operates in it. And that's it, basically. I mean, we've got the attorney here, and the attorney actually approved this FACT lease, and so did the owners of the FACT, the chair people. And it's all signed. So I don't know where we go from here. Chair. Mark would like to
Please.
Thank you. Mark Estabrook, 11 Grace Path, Acton, Massachusetts. I'm also the president of the FACT trustee group. A couple of things. One is we don't, Chairman, you made a comment before that there is no maintenance allowed in the hangar. We don't necessarily agree with that. There's gray areas in there, and to Bill's point earlier, we've not had a lot of opportunity to prepare for this discussion, so we're just looking at it quickly, trying to sort things out. Life's a little bit gray. There isn't black and white. These things can be interpreted in a number of different ways. A lot of folks back here have been scrambling, trying to figure that out. I think what you opened with before of creating some openness where we can have a conversation about these things would be helpful, whether it's a $2 million limit on insurance, whether it's about what is the approval process that the commission goes through. If we understand what the rules of the approval process are, it might be a little bit more palatable. If we don't, then we're in fear of could be denied for no good reason other than nefarious reasons. And I'm not suggesting that would happen, but you understand what I'm saying. If it's not defined, it becomes an open question for folks. So I think we need more discussion, and we need some time for that discussion. I appreciate this hasn't been updated since 1957, but I don't think it's as clear-cut as there's no maintenance allowed in the FACT hangars. I can't speak to the other hangars. I'm not responsible for those. I think it's a little more gray than that, and it's certainly worthwhile some discussion. And I will note that most of us are pilots back here. We take maintenance on our aircraft very, very seriously. We don't want people working on our aircraft that we don't trust. We do want a lot of choice for exactly that reason. And I think up until this point, you have to acknowledge that there's been years of pretty good behavior and people sitting here that have had their planes worked on in similar manners over the years, and that's okay. That's how it's been going. You can't just, you can, I guess, but you shouldn't just drop a curtain and say, okay, now we're going to pivot left or right. Everything in the past is the past, and going forward, we're only going to do this. That's not entirely reasonable, and certainly you're going to get a reaction and sometimes an emotional reaction for that. So we'd like some space and some time to have a discussion with you. Thank you.
So I have no problem with, like I said, I mean, I agree that minimum standards item 2.3 is vague at best. It does say, well, persons or entities need to have insurance. It doesn't give a dollar amount. Reading through the fact lease and to be surprised about the not suitable for maintenance. It was a surprise to me as well. So then I thought to myself, well, I don't see a way forward to having maintenance performed by someone other than the pilot within that fact lease. So I'm not saying things can't be amended. Attorney Pusateri probably won't be really pleased on working on that again, but I know it's a hot button issue, and I thank you all for coming, and we're not through with tonight yet. So the Attorney Pusateri had his hand up. I'm gonna have him speak first.
I look forward to an opportunity to amending the CPU increasing clause on the rent in the fact lease.
That's it? You
Unless they
cut
want us to-
Mr. Estabrook off for that?
Well, if they want to talk about amending the lease, that would be and I'm saying that because I didn't approve this lease. I objected against it. I wanted to be clear on that. Chair.
Thank you, Solicitor Pusateri.
On that one point.
Yes. Is there any other point you would like to make?
No. Thank you, sir.
Please.
Thank you. Just as part of the education and learning process here, could you tell me what section of the FACT list you're looking at that tells you there can't be maintenance done other than the owner's maintenance?
Yeah, I think so.
All I've got is It's item 8. I just took the sheet out,
portion.
Mark. It's BK 5213, page 147, number 9077.
Sorry, hang on one second.
Did you get that?
No, I did not.
Page 147.
I don't think, it doesn't even go up to 147.
Well, that's what's on the top of this one that I took out of the FACT lease that I have.
So there's a BK 9250. Okay, which page again?
147.
147? I don't have.
They're looking at the recording.
Yeah, but there's no 147 here, right? Starts with page 160. Is there a, can you refer to, section 1.3?
Can I approach them?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
So I'll step back and just wait for the answer. Thank you.
He's approaching you, Mark.
Book and page at the registry. I don't know if you have
What's
that
this?
one.
No, I guess I don't. I
You do.
just-
You do. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is a much earlier version than
Okay.
this.
Right.
1492.
Okay.
He's not looking at the
Got the
numbers.
numbers. Okay. We'll take a look at it.
Can I call you?
Yes. Late November, baby.
What's that?
Late November.
So you don't have a current copy of the lease? I think I have the latest, so.
Not here. I've got it in the office.
Yeah, of course, of course. I just mean you're referring to an old section, so.
Right, thank
So
you.
if we could leave that as an action item, I'd appreciate it, so I understand what we're talking about. Thank you.
Yeah. So if I am to summarize, go ahead.
Chair, I just had two clarifying points to make. One is in regards to the incident that the airport manager was referring to with regards to Bill Calden, the gentleman who was involved with the police action regarding trespassing.
Yeah.
I personally am aware of over half a dozen other individuals who are working for payment on the airport in a similar manner. I raised concerns with the airport manager in that regard and said, I didn't understand why my mechanic was being singled out, essentially. And I would reiterate that Section 10.2A that I read into the record earlier says that the Airport Commission and the airport manager has a duty to apply uniformly these standards. And ignorance is not an excuse to not apply them uniformly. The other question I have with respect to insurance that I would like an answer to is that I think we're saying that these standards have been not updated for 50 years or something like that. If that's the case, can the commission answer whether there has ever been a liability claim against the city in relation to maintenance being performed by individual FAA-approved mechanics on the Fitchburg Airport? And if you want to expand it to beyond the 50 years, I don't know if we have records that go back that far, but as a general question, has there ever been a liability issue that would require insurance to be invoked?
I don't have an answer to that. As I was saying earlier, if I was to summarize tonight's meeting, is everyone at the airport would like to view specifically item 2.3, but the minimum standards, and even have an agenda item after review. If that is fair enough, I'm willing to do that. And I'm not going to tell you that, okay, you guys don't like a $2 million liability, I'll drop it down to $100,000 because everybody's screaming. It's probably not going to happen. But we're going to try to get the people that understand insurance, what exactly we're up against. Now, the point was made up that every owner has insurance of each fat condominium, let's call them. I assume that to be true. Whether that transfers onto somebody you hired that doesn't have insurance or has minimal insurance, I don't have the answer to that. And one other point I would like to make is we were not singling out any particular person. It just happened to be that person that day, okay? We understand there's a handful, maybe a dozen people that come in and do work at the airport that we either don't know their names or just come in and do things. You know, we're not a police force, and we're not telling him he can't do it. We're telling him he has to meet the standards in 2.3, which unfortunately are gray at this time. And it needs to be fixed. It was 1957, so they wrote it down, and everybody said, yeah, that looks fine. Well, now we got to take input, we got to show it in public, we got to debate it in public, and we got to go through the attorney to see his view on it, and we have to make a ruling on it, and that's how it's going to move forward. Go ahead, Attorney Pisteri.
Mr. Chair, I like the idea of if we can post something as a proposed draft, and then the folks can have a chance to take a good look at it. And then I would greatly appreciate being able to receive, if there's a written comment or other documents that might relate to objections to that, then I could take a few. And so this won't be something that we'll do in the November or December meeting, but this would be something that we would probably be shortly thereafter, hopefully January, I would think. I don't know if that timeline would be acceptable to you.
Well, I have no control out of how long this process is going to take. We got to get it written down. We got to post it. I'm sure we have legal rules of getting it posted, how long it has to be posted, and all that other stuff. I guess in the meantime, we do have a bit of an issue. We have persons in this room and other people at the airport that do depend on people to come in and do things for them, and right now it's being done against the procedures that are in place from 1957. Even though they're old, they're still in place. And the person, that particular person on that particular day did not apply with the airport for permission to work at the airport, and never has. Probably the other 6 people haven't either, but we haven't found them yet.
And we will.
So I want to move on to other items. Is there any other comment you'd like to make? I mean, are we, you know, I don't want to be a commission that makes decisions with blinders on. So please approach the podium and don't be bashful.
Yeah, thank you. So the last comment is exactly the point you raised. I'm not sure why the urgency. I understand the need for the minimum policy. No disagreement with that. And you've got a process for getting there, and now we're going to open that up and give a chance for comment. I think that's assuring to a lot of us. Yep. I would ask that the commission consider not going overboard or not enforcing that policy suddenly. Why not let it go for a few more months? It's gone fine for 60 plus years. Why not let it go until in the next several months we can close on the new minimum standards? Because otherwise, you have a history of practice that has been going on for years and years and years. And to just suddenly stop it and enforce it, and I appreciate there's difficulty in identifying those dozen people or half dozen people, but it comes very much across heavy-handed and discriminatory. I'm not suggesting it is. I'm just saying that's how it's perceived. It creates a lot of bad will on the airport grounds. So what I'd ask the commission to consider not getting too hung up about enforcing this at this very moment, but rely on the process to get to an enforceable minimum standards that everyone's aware of, can prepare for, and feel good about. Thank you.
We'll take that under advisement. How was that?
Perfect.
I have to refer to the attorney at this moment. We have some standards that are in place. They're older than I am. And we're being asked to walk a gray line. Now, I know you hate gray lines, but please comment.
So my thought was, listening to the gentleman speak, that the commission would vote whether or not you would refrain from the enforcement of that specific standard until a period of time, or until a new standard is, or you would vote to approve your manager's effort to enforce the current minimum standards.
Correct.
So I think you have 4 people available. Oh, no, you have 3. So do we have a quorum tonight?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
We do?
Yeah.
So I'd put it before the commission and have them vote. They're either going to enforce their current minimum standards from the 1950s, or they're going to provide a reprieve until it's further evaluated. And I think it would be up to your commissioners to decide that.
All right. I'm going to ask the opinion of the airport manager. He's the one that has to deal with this thing day in and day out, and I want his opinion before the commission considers a motion.
Nothing like being on the hot seat, is it?
Well,
No, I understand. I understand. Look, as far as I'm concerned, an accident can happen at any time. It's not predictable. And it hasn't happened actually, it's 1953, I've just been advised, not 1957. An accident,
really older than I am.
An accident can happen at any time. And if an accident happens and we lose 16 hangars and 16 airplanes, then it's on the commission. It's simple.
Thanks for that.
Can I comment on that comment?
Yeah, why not? Why not? We've been here for 30 minutes anyway.
I don't believe that's the city's liability. I believe that's FACT's liability.
I mean, I'll make one comment. Just because a authorized inspector has a $2 million policy, has a hangar in which is certified or assigned for maintenance, doesn't make him a good mechanic. However, we can't tell the difference from our seat.
One other point, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Before the commission considers the proposed motion, which would be that you raised the comment earlier that a key question respecting insurance, if that is the critical question that is on the commission's mind relative to this, would be whether the insurance, the existing insurance, which is required under the leases that are in place at the airport, whether that insurance carries to all activities that are going on inside of the hangar. I said it earlier, as you did, I'm no insurance expert, but my quick read of that document is that it does cover a broad range of liability considerations, including maintenance work that would be done on the aircraft in the hangars. So I think there's some questions that need to be answered first before you reach a conclusion to say that we have a massive liability problem. And I would reiterate the point that, I take Peter's point that accidents can happen anytime. We all know that, but our track record is pretty good. We're all very safe pilots, and we pay attention to our airplanes.
Well, before you spoke, I agree. I would not motion to put this on for a vote this evening for that one reason. The city or the commission, it just would not be fair to the citizens of Fitchburg for something to happen in the next 4 months while we get this hashed out, to only find out that, yes, it was allowed by the commission and okayed and the city approved. That's my feeling. Now, any one of the commissioners can make a motion, and I'm open for comment.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask the pilots a question?
Of You can.
You
I don't
guys
know that
have
kind of an answer.
expensive planes in your hangars. If you lose your plane, if you lose the hangar that plane, the aircraft is stored in, and damage is done to airport property, what policy you have now, does that cover you for your loss and your neighbor's loss, as it stands right now? So you lost your plane, your aircraft is gone, your hangar is gone, and there's damage done to airport property. So when you take out a policy for your home, your house is covered from almost the foundation. Usually insurance companies don't cover the foundation. I know nothing about aircrafts. I'm not an insurance agent. I'm just trying to figure this all in. And I understand what you guys are saying. And dealing with aircrafts takes a special person in a controlled atmosphere. I'm just trying to say, are you that confident that your plane, your structure, and relative property around your structure is covered on the policy that you have? Go ahead, speak.
Please, go ahead.
I did not anticipate on speaking. My name is Chris Lund. I'm a pilot, have an airplane on the site. I'm also a local attorney. And on top of that, I was an insurance adjuster before law school, so I may be able to answer a little bit of that. The hangars are typically covered by insurance on the hangars, bought by whether it's FACT or whoever owns the hangar. The airplane is also covered by insurance by whoever owns the airplane. So if an airplane in one of the FACT hangars burns down and burns down the whole row of hangars with it, that's FACT's loss, not the city's. The city has no ownership interest in that at all. About the worst you could expect, I think, is melted asphalt around there. I mean, there's just not much of the city's property to be damaged, and obviously Peter can agree or disagree with that. So is there insurance to cover any damage to the city's property? Well, that would depend upon the liability policy of the insurance. Typically liability policy, and I'm not a real expert on airplane insurance, I'm just talking in general terms. Liability policies typically say that the insurance company will pay for damages which you, the insured, are legally liable to pay. That means there has to be a showing that you are somehow negligent or responsible for the damages. So if you've got a fire and you can point back to somebody doing something, negligently handle fuel or something like that, then that liability would cover them for those damages. If the fire happens out of something nobody can find a cause for, there may or may not be insurance coverage for that. Does that help?
Is there any
Follow-up question for Attorney Lund? So would there be, and I'm just asking the question because I don't know the answer either, would there be an uninsured component if, for example, the city was failing to enforce minimum standards and one of the FATC hangars goes up and then the next door neighbor is damaged and he's not able to be compensated fully from insurance? We have failed to enforce?
I'm not sure I understand your question, but under property insurance, there's nothing like uninsured policy under automobile insurance,
Right.
if that's where you're going.
So if there's an uninsured loss, so in other words, if the loss for if the insurance that is currently in effect for the FACT owner who has the fire.
Right.
And neighbors are damaged, neighbors in the FACT condominium trust. What would their claim be against the airport as a landlord, not necessarily as a municipality, for failure to enforce our regulations? That'd be my question, and I don't know the answer to that either.
My answer is that I don't see any liability at all.
Okay.
But I quickly amend that answer to say that if a client came to me and said they bought a cup of coffee at McDonald's, put it in their lap and spilled it and want to sue McDonald's, I would also tell them there's no liability. So it's amazing how creative we attorneys can be in finding liability. Right. You see what I'm saying? So if a hangar burned down and we can show that someone was negligent in causing that fire, they didn't have insurance, could the city be held liable for not enforcing minimum standards? I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or terms of the lease or whatever, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Clearly, the airplane owners, in hiring people to work on their airplanes, want to make sure, A, that the person knows what they're doing, and that's really a key position here, because many airplane owners have gone through several different mechanics before they find somebody they're comfortable with. But could somebody make up a theory like that? I'm sure somebody could. I don't see it, and I think the possibilities of it are extremely slim, yeah.
Can I have a follow-up question?
Yes.
If this process goes on till January, the January Airport Commission meeting, and we continue to operate under the 1957 regulations, how many planned inspections, maybe folks in the audience could just simply answer this question, would be frustrated from the single service provider?
I can't give you a number, but it would be particularly anybody who is scheduled for their annual inspection between now and January. So if their inspections were due in the end of October, November, actually, yeah, anytime October, November, December, January, they would be affected by this, yes. The ones who would have annuals due those times and also would want to bring in A&P's mechanics from outside to do the inspection in their hangar, that would be your liability, which is probably very few. I don't know a number to that because I don't know every airplane's schedule, maintenance schedule.
Yeah, so I think the other side of that coin is would be very few, so there'd be very low chance of a problem, but the other side of that coin is we'd be interfering with, possibly the right word, interfering with a very few number of inspections as we work diligently to get this done by January.
Right. And just because I'm there, I know some of the situations, most of the mechanics that are brought in from outside to do the inspections in the hangar are somebody that people have been dealing with for years, and they're pretty comfortable with not only their competency, but their liability issues as well.
Just one last point is I remember that Mr. Kettle and I had conferred with Mr. Pantelli, I think, at the FAA regarding this very issue a few months back, and I think he was focused on compliance with the minimum standards.
Yes,
so
he was.
I think I'll just say that so that the group knows our decision was informed from that perspective. Right. So it wasn't informed from some other perspective.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Not sure who was first. Go ahead.
It's always tempting to go right to the stuff that we can touch and try to be conservative as we can. And I'm a pretty conservative guy. I carry lots of insurance. But there's also risks we don't talk about. So first of all, FACT has insurance on the buildings. We have liability, general liability, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of insurance there. But if IA's, A&P's mechanics are not allowed on the field for individuals, I'll tell you, I'll feel less safe. I have an aircraft there as well. People will be tempted to delay maintenance or to do it themselves when they shouldn't. The mechanics that are coming on the field are very competent. I don't know of anybody who is a crappy mechanic. I've never heard those kind of rumors before. I would much rather see those mechanics on the field than not, because of what I just said. People may delay, they may not do maintenance when they should, or they may try to do it themselves and create more of a hazard for all of us. So it's a more pragmatic answer to your question, but.
Thank you. Please.
Mr. Shorey.
My name is Fran Shores. I happen to own a hangar out at the airport. I just want to make the commission aware, in case you're not aware, but out at Fitchburg Airport, and I guarantee you 90% of all the airports in the United States where there are hangars, there are people building their own airplanes, including Fitchburg. It's a big hobby. They sell kits, they sell plans, and people spend years building their own airplane. Now, why should Fitchburg be any different? They're doing it all over, maybe even Logan. And the way I see the minimum standards, and from what is being said, you can't do that. And why does Fitchburg have to be so different than every other airport? That's all. Just wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, if you'd like to reply.
Franny? Fran? The Commission Chairman is an A&P. He has worked on experimental planes in the past, and we appreciate that all experimental planes are built and home-built. We have nothing against that at all. Not at all, because the person that actually flies that plane is a qualified pilot before the pilot who's built the plane will fly it. They have to get that done according to the FAA. Now, in terms of insurance, it comes back to the insurance. This really has started because one person came on, and if there's others, I will find out. I will find out, and I'll stop them coming on at this point in time because they're not meeting the minimum standards. This is all about the minimum standards. If Mr. Colden had come to me and said, Peter, I want to come onto the airport, I said, well, I'll put you on the commission meeting. Let him come in here and stage his case. He didn't do that. I said, have you got insurance? He said, yes. I said, can I see it? He said, I don't have to show you. So, you know, I'm responsible to the city. I'm responsible to the city. And my fear is that something could happen. And if the commission want to change my mind, then I'm just the airport manager. I do what the commission, my boss, tells me to do. So...
we're going to get off this subject. We got a lot of items to get to. You know, in addition to, let's say we got over the hurdle of insurance, and we got over the issue of the clause in the latest lease. You know, we're still, as a commission, allowing somebody to do work in a hangar that is not designated for maintenance. And it's not like we just look at a bird's eye view of the hangar and go, that one, that one, that one, and this one. An FBO has spill kits in place. They have safety data sheets clearly designated in their hangar. There is an eye wash station. It gets deep, and you're asking us to allow the same work that goes on in the FBO. You want to be able to have it done in a hangar that's not a maintenance hangar. To me, that's a big hurdle, and I don't need any comment on it. And you know, the rest of the world, 90% of the airports in America allow this to happen. Well, you know, them allowing it to happen doesn't make it right, and doesn't you know, isolate that town from being sued. And it is a big fear of the commission to, you know, let things slide, because when things slide, bad things can happen, and it's expensive to defend, and it's expensive when you lose. So we do lean on the FAA for almost every time an issue comes up. They are very black and white, and there's no room to the left and right, and we're trying to find some room to the left and right, and we'll try. I think there's going to be some problems. You have time to prepare. I don't suspect that we're going to be voting on new minimum standards until January. We'll try to get those in print soon. We're going to try to come up with a minimum insurance, and then we can have that conversation about, does your insurance cover the person that you have coming in? We can do that. The fact lease, I mean, if you can get over the increase in CPI first, and then, just joking, but, you know, we need to see that verbiage in the latest fact lease. Is there any other commissioner that wants to make any comment at this time? It's going to be ongoing. We're going to have this on the agenda for the next three meetings. All right.
I'm good.
We're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you all for coming. I understand this is very personal, and I hope we can get through it, but I think work needs to be done on both sides. Thank you very much. Thank you. New business, number 2, Nagel agreement for Hangar 10. We probably went over that with action items earlier.
Yes, we did. That's all done.
Valentine agreement.
All done.
Twin City Air Motive agreement.
I was visited today by one of the owners of Twin City, and Attorney Pusateri, I think you should listen to this. They don't want a 20 plus 5 plus 5 lease. They want a 5 plus 5 plus 5 lease.
Okay.
Now, we can do that with no problems whatsoever, right?
I don't think, and I wish I knew everything off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure we don't need council approval for a less than 20-year lease.
Okay, thank you. And they also said that there's no get out in the actual agreement. If one of them gets sick and they can't afford to do it, can they get out of that contract?
No. But what they can do is they can notify us of their intention to vacate the property, and we can try to release it. Because we would have an obligation to mitigate our damages.
Right. Okay. Excellent.
So,
thank you.
you know, I think they...
Or they could sell it to another willing partner
If they
to take it over.
if they found someone wanting to come
Right.
in and that was acceptable to the commission, then you
Thank
give
you.
that to them.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, 5 plus 5 plus 5 is probably agreeable. The commission, I don't think, has a problem with that as well. And you're going to get back to them on a, like you say,
Yes,
for the unforeseen.
Yes, sir.
Hangar 1 agreement.
This is with 2 owners. They also have, sorry, not owners, tenants. They also have the Bullock agreement. Mr. Bullock assigned his lease to them. At the moment, they are in default of payment by $17,000 to the city, to the airport, and I've actually sent them a letter saying that if they don't pay up by the end of this month, then we'll start taking action to take those hangars back. Well, so far, I haven't heard anything from them, and I've sent an email through to Anne Cervantes today asking her if any checks had come in. And if not, then I will be on you, Attorney Pusateri, to give me a letter, or you send the letter through, and we'll take the hangars back.
Is this the one that I have a conflict on?
No.
Okay.
No conflict.
So we would send them a notice to quit?
Yes.
And then we would initiate an eviction?
Yes.
That'd be the first one.
But they do have until the end of October to pay us.
That's what I put in the letter, yes. Who's the owner on that? It's Rich Corley and Jake Woodford.
So I don't quite understand what that means. Does that mean they have to pay you in person by that day?
No, they have
They
to
put
pay
it
it to
in
the
the
city.
mailbox by that day, or the city has to get it and clear the check by that day?
Yes. They've had a month. And I've had no response at all.
Yeah. So, with that said, at what point can we legally,
I'd have to have the lease in front of me, but, and I would review whether or not Mr. Kettle's letter would serve as a notice of default. But if it didn't, if I determine that it does, then we could hold them in default and then begin 2 steps down the road. But if I had to, I would send them a new notice of default just to make sure we have a nice clean footing.
yeah, okay.
Just to let you know, one of them, there is a lease, the other one is a tenant at will.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
All right, so the commission knows about it.
Are there materials or machinery inside the hangars that we could attach?
no. No, there's nothing. They're just storing airplanes and making money.
Other people's airplanes,
Yes.
yeah.
I
Do
mean,
we have
that's,
the names of those individuals
yes,
that they're storing their
Yes.
planes for?
yes.
We might be able to attach their income stream, at least a portion of it. So it would be good to get the name when we make the determination.
Okay.
GPU installation is ongoing,
Yes.
action items. Old business, mass development site readiness. Mary Jo, I want you to give your best attempt at the quickest possible. But, no. You sat here all this time. You knock yourself out. Thank you.
Mary Jo Bohart, Economic Development Director for the City of Fitchburg. And although the commissioners are aware, maybe others in the public may not know, Mass Development has funded a site readiness grant that provides professional services, urban planning, and some economic analysis, looking at the airport land, particularly the non-aviation use portions of the former runway land. So we've been on a schedule of bi-monthly online meetings with the consultant team and representatives from airport manager or also airport commission chair. And our last meeting was a week ago today. We were hoping, or the consultant team was hoping, they might be able to finish up the work, which would result in a guidance type report by the end of October. That's what we thought when we all began in the early autumn, but they did acknowledge that likely that's too ambitious, so probably at least another month or so. What we have viewed in some of these, I'll call them update sessions, is some of the conceptual layout plans of a mixture of industrial and commercial uses, basically intended to demonstrate the kind of yield that some of those portions of land might be able to have, and that's more in a spatial layout sense. The airport economics consultant on their team then analyzes what sort of revenue, what sort of income the airport could enjoy from the development of those portions of the property. And that's probably what's most relevant. None of it, it's intended, when it's all said and done, to be guidance for the commission in decision-making as different pieces of land are being looked at by interested parties. You'll have a lot more knowledge of what something's worth, what the income could be from it, and that sort of thing. So, so we will have another one of our bi-monthly update meetings a week from today, and and then another one 2 weeks after that. One possibility for you all to consider would be, and it sounds like your next month's meeting will be full agenda as always, but we could have a brief presentation by that consultant team, perhaps at your November meeting. If for some reason you feel that meeting is too full, we could do it at the December meeting. It's whatever works out for you. But ultimately, the work that's being produced could be presented by the consultants. Some might be here physically present because they're Massachusetts-based. The one specialist, the airport economics specialist, he would be virtual. So he'd be beaming in. But so it's something for you to think about, whether it would be the November meeting or possibly the December meeting, where they could present some of the early findings from the type of analysis that they're doing.
I think the commission, I know Peter and I are definitely more involved than the rest of the commissioners.
Right.
I think it would be wise to have some sort of a presentation. Let's, I'm going to put Peter on the spot. Let's see what the next month's commission meeting looks like, and I would be in favor of having that sooner than later.
I agree, and keep in mind, feedback from the full commission and Peter, probably it's great to get that before they get to the point where whatever they're producing is getting to. In other words, we would like them to present, but we want the feedback to be folded into whatever becomes a more refined version of things. And in addition to the conceptual layouts and the economic analyses, part of what they'll be composing is sort of a guidance memo or next step ideas, based on all of what they analyze, what does it all mean for you all as you do what you do moving forward. And so I think it'd be great to get your feedback ideally at the November meeting, but I understand time is always a consideration.
No, I think we should, we'll do what we can. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes.
one question for Mary Jo. On
if
your
she's willing to answer.
bi-monthly meetings?
Yes.
Is it guidance questions, or you're asking the commission and Peter, or are you updating them on your advanced plans?
I'm oftentimes more of a listener, because what those meetings are is this consultant team. So it's urban planners, there's a civil engineer, and there's economics analysis
So it's a
consultant.
brainstorming meeting?
Well, they have started to show some of these conceptual layouts. Basically, there's a lot of back and forth. It's very informal, but they've started, I think, a meeting ago, or even 2 meetings ago, because it's every 2 weeks, starting to almost tease us to see some of the layouts. By hearing some of our initial reactions, sometimes they showed one type of use, and we were like, okay, let's take that off the table. So then they, so in one example, they had a single industrial building, but based on the grades of the site and based on the types of inquiries I hear from smaller industrial users, they came back in another meeting with 3 buildings. I mean, keep in mind, this isn't necessarily saying that's how the site will get developed. It's saying that this is what that site could yield based on zoning and other constraints, and it helps you all to understand, in a sense, what's it worth, and how might that bring revenue in for you all to operate the airport. So that's kind of what we're trying to hone in on better.
So they're gaining knowledge?
They're gaining knowledge, and we're gaining knowledge, I'd like to think.
I
Yeah, definitely.
A little bit of
trying to
both.
get a feel of
Yeah, like I said, I know
where we are, 'cause
Bass, David, and you
Yeah, not
have all been
being
in the
part of
dark
it,
on
it's
this,
like-
So, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, Mary Jo, first of all, apologies, excuse me, for having to leave the last meeting as quickly
Okay,
as I
you
had to.
had things you had to do.
But you know what it was all about.
Of
because
course. You had to go. No.
The other thing, I think it's really good to have it in front of the commission, because at the commission meeting, we will have our consultant there, and I think they will get a lot out of it as well.
Sure.
So I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, like I said, we more than likely have it in a November meeting.
That'd be great. And my thinking was whatever they have at that time won't be what's their final version. It's iterative. And the feedback they hear from you all and from Gale Associates
I agree.
could then
I don't-
inform whatever ultimately becomes their final work product.
I don't want to work on something for 9 months and have 3 of us not like it at all.
Right.
Fortunately, we've only been working on it for 2 months, but I hear what you're
Feels
saying.
longer.
I get you, absolutely. So that sounds like a fine plan, and we can check in. I'll be letting them know about the date of your next
Yeah,
meeting.
Peter and I
And
should
it sounds
understand-
like
should
there
have
would
an
be a
understanding.
bit of time on the agenda where they could be a part of it. Okay.
Definitely.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
Thank you.
Old business, tie downs, FPA co-op.
We await a response from Attorney Paulak, Attorney Busateri.
Say this,
Reference
yes.
the FBA
Are
co-op.
we awaiting that?
Yeah.
I have recently tasked her with a number of items,
Okay,
so I'm sure it's a challenge to prioritize them.
okay, thank you.
So we're waiting just word from the Assistant City Solicitor?
Say that again?
We're just waiting for,
Yes.
Attorney
yeah,
Paulak,
I have a
yes,
conflict of
response.
interest on that particular matter.
RFP for
Done.
7 to 9 hangars, for roofs for hangars 2 and
Done.
3. The Pete store.
Yeah, the Peach Store, Convergent Energy, and Stephen Dyke.
Okay.
Peach Store and Convergent Energy really awaiting the finalisation of the signature by from the FAA on the ALP.
Yeah,
And Stephen Dyke, I'm already discussing with the mayor, so
yeah.
that's all done.
And Convergent and the Pete Star are waiting on ALP, right?
No, the
No.
Pete Store and Convergent. Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes.
Okay. Financial review, do you have any commitments or abatements?
No, but I have some comments.
Yeah, let's go.
We leased a little bit of land for a sign to go on the road at Erdman Way
Okay.
to BJ's. And when I took over, I tried to find the agreement that we have with them, and I couldn't find it. So I saw what they were paying, and for the last 3 years that I've been here, I've actually charged them the same update on what I charge the tenants as an annual increase. Well, I saw that they were getting behind, and then I actually called them and said, look, I said, you're not paying your bill. And this director said, let me get back to you. And then he sent me a copy of a lease that we had with them, and we've actually overcharged them. So I believe we're going to have an abatement coming up. That's currently with the treasurer, and she's sorting it all out on getting it correct. So that's what's coming for the future. So expect an abatement for BJ's.
Wonderful. Attorney Pusteri.
If it's a sign, my memory is it would be a license and not a lease.
Okay.
And if it's a license, it may be revocable. So we have to take a look at that. It may not be, I'd like to look at it, so I don't know if you can send it over to me.
Oh, yeah, of course I can. It actually has an increase every 5 years over the next, I think it was 20 years.
Okay.
So I'll get that to you.
Yeah.
Maybe you could put urgent.
Like I do?
Just a suggestion.
Want to out-prioritize anybody that only writes urgent 3 times.
That's right.
Executive session, there is not anything planned. There is not one tonight. Date and time of next regular meeting would be November 16th?
Yes, sir.
How's that possible?
Yeah. Yeah.
The third Wednesday?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, November 16th, 6 o'clock here.
If the first is on the first Wednesday, or the second's on the first Wednesday.
Regular meeting adjourned at 7:39. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.